The night was cold, colder than any night he could remember that winter. The snow was falling in slow, heavy flakes, each one glowing faintly in the light of the lantern he carried. His breath rose in small clouds, fading quickly in the freezing wind. Beside him, his dog padded through the snow, leaving 2 neat lines of paw prints. The animal stayed close, but its ears were up, alert, listening for sounds hidden in the storm. The man pulled his coat tighter and lowered his head against the biting air. He had not wanted to come outside so late, but his dog had been restless, scratching at the door, whining until he gave in. At first he thought the dog only wanted a short walk, but the way the animal pulled at the leash told him something else was wrong. It was not a playful tug. It was sharp, urgent, as if the dog had caught a scent that did not belong to the forest. The man frowned. He had lived on the edge of these woods for years. He knew the paths, the hidden streams, the quiet places where deer sometimes gathered. Tonight, though, the forest felt different. It felt awake, watching, waiting. Snow crunched beneath his boots as he followed the dog deeper among the trees. The lantern light flickered, shadows shifting across the trunks like moving figures. Each time the wind passed through the branches, the man thought he heard voices, soft whispers just out of reach. He shook his head, telling himself it was only the wind. But still his heart beat faster. Then the dog stopped. Its body stiffened and a low growl rumbled from its throat. The man lifted the lantern higher, letting the pale glow stretch farther into the woods. At first he saw nothing but snow and darkness. Then he noticed something strange, a small shape lying near the base of a tree. At first glance it looked like a child curled up in the snow. The man hurried forward, his boots sinking deep. The dog barked once, sharp and loud, as if warning him to be careful. When the light touched the figure, the man froze. It was not a child. Not a human child. The small body trembled violently as though the cold would break it apart. Its skin was pale, almost silver under the lantern light. Its eyes, half open, glowed faintly with a color he could not name, something between blue and green, shifting like liquid. Thin arms wrapped around itself, and strange markings glimmered faintly along its skin, like faint tattoos or symbols that pulsed with weak light. The man's breath caught in his throat. For a long moment he simply stared. He had seen many things in his life, but never this. Never a creature so delicate, so fragile, and so far from anything that belonged in these woods. His dog barked again, but softer this time, almost uncertain. The creature stirred at the sound. Slowly, painfully, it lifted its head. Its lips parted, and a thin voice came out, weak, broken, but clear enough to understand. "Please, help me." The words sent a shiver down the man's spine. The creature spoke in his language. Though the accent was strange, the sound almost musical. He knelt quickly, brushing snow away from its small body. Its clothes, if they could be called that, were torn and thin, made of a fabric unlike anything he had seen before. He could feel the heat leaving its body fast. Without help, it would not survive. What are you?" he whispered almost to himself. The little alien girl looked up at him with trembling eyes. She tried to speak again, but only one phrase came out, soft and broken. "They are coming." Her head fell forward, her small body collapsing into his arms. The man felt his pulse quicken. He glanced around the woods, the lantern light swinging across the trees. Everything looked empty, but the girl's words echoed in his mind. They are coming. Who were they? And why did this fragile being fear them so much? The dog whined low, ears pinned back, staring into the dark beyond the lantern's glow. The man felt the weight of the girl in his arms. So light it was as if he held nothing but snow. He knew in that instant he could not leave her there. Whatever she was, whoever she was, she needed him. But even as he lifted her, even as he turned back toward the cabin, he felt it. That strange presence in the forest. A pressure like unseen eyes watching from every shadow. The storm howled louder. The dog barked, pulling at the leash, eager to return home. The man began to walk quickly, his boots heavy in the snow, his arms clutching the girl close to his chest. Behind him, the forest groaned. A faint light flickered in the sky above the trees. Not the light of stars, not the light of the moon. Something else, something moving. The girl stirred weakly against him. Her voice was a whisper, but the words were clear. "Don't let them find me." The man's grip tightened. His heart pounded. He didn't know who was out there, but he knew one thing. He was already part of something far bigger than himself. And as the strange lights in the sky began to grow brighter, he realized his quiet life in the woods was over. The man pushed open the cabin door with his shoulder, snow sliding from his coat as he stepped inside. His dog hurried in first, shaking itself dry, leaving white specks across the wooden floor. The man set the lantern on the table, its light glowing warmly against the rough log walls. Then he lowered the small alien girl onto a chair near the fire. The flames crackled, throwing sparks upward, but still she trembled as if the fire could not touch her. Her skin was colder than ice, her breath faint. The man pulled a thick blanket from the bed and wrapped it around her small frame. His hands shook not from the cold but from the weight of what he had carried back from the forest. The dog sat close, ears tilted forward, watching the girl with curious, cautious eyes. Each time she moved, the dog gave a soft growl, then settled again as if torn between protecting his master and guarding the strange guest. The man crouched in front of her, studying her face. She looked so young, no older than a child. But those eyes, they glowed faintly, colors shifting like waves of light beneath the ocean, eyes that had seen more than her small form suggested. "You'll be safe here," the man whispered, though he wasn't sure if he believed his own words. "No one can find you in this place." The girl stirred, her lips parting. Her voice was fragile, trembling, but still carried a strange music within it. "Why? Help me?" she asked. The man hesitated. He wasn't sure himself. He could have left her in the snow, told himself she wasn't his problem. But something inside him refused. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, with fear and trust tangled together. Maybe it was the thought of his dog pulling at the leash as if fate itself had guided him to her. "Because you needed it," he finally said. "Because no one deserves to die out there." For a moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the fire's hiss and the wind pressing against the walls. Then the girl reached into her torn clothes and pulled out something small. It was a stone. No, not a stone, something more. It glowed softly, a pulsing light that seemed alive. She held it close, fingers trembling. "Don't let them take this," she whispered. Her voice carried a weight, a fear that sank deep into the man's chest. "If they find it, they find me." The man frowned, staring at the strange object. It didn't look like anything from Earth. The light seemed to hum in the air like a heartbeat out of rhythm with his own. He didn't know what it was, but he knew it was dangerous. "Who are they?" he asked carefully. The girl shook her head, eyes wide with terror. "Hunters, soldiers, they chased me. I ran so far." Tears welled in her glowing eyes. "But they don't stop. They never stop." The dog growled softly at the sound of her words, as if sensing the danger that lay outside the cabin walls. The man stood, moving to the window. He pushed the curtain aside just enough to glance outside. Snow fell heavier now, covering the world in white silence. But through the trees, far away, he thought he saw a flicker of light. Not lantern light, not fire. Something sharper. Something searching. He let the curtain fall back, his jaw tight. The girl was not lying. Something was out there. Something was moving closer. He turned to her again. "You can't stay here for long," he said quietly. "If they're looking for you, they'll find this place sooner or later." The girl hugged the glowing stone tighter to her chest. "Please, just for tonight, please." The man's heart softened. He nodded once. "For tonight," he agreed. He brought her food, bread, meat, and warm tea. She tasted them carefully as if she had never eaten such things before. Slowly, some color returned to her silver skin. The firelight danced across her face, and for a brief moment she almost looked human. As she ate, the man sat back, his dog resting at his feet. His mind raced with questions. Who was she? Where had she come from? And what kind of enemy was powerful enough to send soldiers to hunt a single, trembling girl? The wind howled again, shaking the cabin. The lantern flame flickered, and the shadows lengthened across the room. The man stood once more, restless, uneasy. He opened the door and stepped outside for a moment. The night was darker now. The snowstorm had slowed, but the air carried a strange hum, low and steady, almost too faint to notice. Then he saw it, distant lights cutting through the forest, sweeping back and forth like searching eyes. His blood ran cold. "They've already come this far," he whispered. He shut the door quickly, bolting it. The girl looked up, her glowing eyes wide, the stone clutched to her chest. She didn't need to ask what he had seen. She already knew. The man sat back by the fire, pulling his dog closer, staring at the door as if it might burst open at any second. The girl's voice broke the silence, soft as falling snow. "If they find me here, you will die too." The man said nothing. He only reached for another log and placed it on the fire, watching the sparks rise. He had already made his choice, but in his heart he knew tonight was only the beginning. The cabin walls groaned under the weight of the storm, but inside the fire still burned. The man sat near it, his dog curled by his feet, while the little alien girl clutched the glowing stone tightly to her chest. Her eyes would not leave the door, as if she knew it would not hold forever. Outside, the forest no longer sounded like a forest. The night was not silent. Faint hums drifted through the air, sharp mechanical sounds that didn't belong in the wilderness. It was the sound of engines of machines. The man heard it too, and his body tensed with each passing second. The dog suddenly rose, hackles bristling, a low growl rumbling in its throat. It faced the door as though something stood just beyond it. The man reached for the old rifle hanging above the hearth. His fingers closed around the cold wood. Though he knew a weapon so simple would be no match for whatever hunted her, still it was better than nothing. Then came the knock. 3 loud, heavy bangs shook the door. The girl gasped, pulling the blanket tighter around her shoulders, pressing herself against the wall. The man raised a hand, telling her to stay quiet. His dog barked furiously, leaping at the door as if it could tear through it. "Open!" a voice demanded from outside. It was deep, harsh, mechanical. Not quite human, not quite alien, but something in between. "We know you are here." The man didn't move. His heart thudded in his chest. He thought of lying, pretending he had seen nothing, but the girl's glowing eyes stopped him. She looked at him with such fear, such pleading, that he knew he couldn't betray her. The knock came again, louder this time. "Open, human. We will not ask again." Slowly the man stepped toward the door. He kept the rifle low, his other hand resting on the latch. He pulled it open just enough to see outside. Snow swirled in the wind, glowing faintly under harsh white lights that cut through the trees. At least 4 tall figures stood in the storm. They wore armor that shimmered like metal and shadow mixed together. Strange helmets hid their faces, but their eyes glowed red from behind the glass. Each carried a weapon, long, black, and humming with deadly energy. The closest soldier leaned forward, scanning the man's face. "Have you seen anything strange tonight?" the voice asked, metallic and cold. "A small one. Not of your kind." The man's throat felt dry. His eyes flicked to the side where the curtain hid the girl. He forced himself to look back. "No," he said, voice steady. "Just me and my dog." The soldier tilted its head as if measuring the truth of his words. Then it lifted a small device glowing faintly and pointed it toward the cabin. A sharp beep echoed. The girl's grip on the stone tightened inside, her fear radiating like heat. The man's stomach turned cold. The soldier's voice darkened. "Our tracker says otherwise." The dog barked again, pulling forward as if ready to attack. One of the soldiers raised its weapon, but the man stepped quickly into the doorway, blocking their view inside. "I don't know what your tracker says," the man snapped. His fear burned into anger, giving him courage he didn't know he had. "But you're not coming in here." The soldier's head tilted again. For a long, silent moment, the storm howled between them. Then the leader made a small motion with its hand. The others lowered their weapons, but not completely. "Very well," the soldier said at last. "But know this. If we find you are lying, human, your home will burn and you with it." The group turned, their light sweeping across the snow as they moved back into the trees. Soon the sound of engines returned, low and steady, fading deeper into the forest. The man shut the door quickly, bolting it once more. He turned, his chest rising and falling fast. The girl sat trembling by the fire, her eyes wet with tears. "They know," she whispered. "They will come back. They always come back." The man placed the rifle against the wall and crouched beside her. His dog pressed close too, as if protecting her now as much as its master. "Then we don't wait for them," the man said firmly. "If they'll come back, we leave before they do." The girl shook her head. "You don't understand. They will follow. They never stop." "Then we make them stop," the man replied, though he wasn't sure how. His voice carried a strength he didn't feel, but it was enough to calm her trembling just a little. Outside, the storm eased, the snow falling softer. Through the window, faint lights flickered in the distance, sweeping the ground like hunters searching for prey. The man's jaw tightened. His quiet life was gone. His cabin was no longer safe. He had taken in a stranger, an alien child with enemies beyond his understanding, and now those enemies had found him. As the fire crackled, he knew one truth. If he wanted to keep her safe, He would have to leave everything behind. And somewhere deep in the woods, the red-eyed soldiers turned back, their leader raising a hand toward the cabin. "We will return," the voice growled. The fire still burned in the cabin, but the warmth no longer felt safe. The man sat by the door, staring at the shadows moving in the distance beyond the window. His dog lay at his feet, restless, ears twitching every few seconds. The little alien girl clutched the glowing stone against her chest, her wide eyes never leaving the door. He knew the soldiers would come back. He had seen it in the way they looked at him, the way their device had beeped. They didn't believe his lie. They would return with more men, stronger weapons, maybe even burn his cabin to the ground. Staying here meant death. He rose to his feet and walked to the window. The storm had softened, though snow still drifted down. The night was quiet again. Too quiet. As if the forest was holding its breath. "We can't stay," he said at last, turning back to the girl. "If we wait here, they'll find you. They'll find us all." Her face paled even more. "Go, outside. They are watching. They are waiting." The man bent down, his voice calm but firm. "If we move now, we have a chance. If we stay, there's no chance at all." The dog barked once, sharp and quick, as if agreeing. The girl hesitated. Then slowly she nodded. She wrapped the blanket tighter around herself, though it was far too big for her small frame. The man pulled on his heavy coat and boots again, slinging a bag over his shoulder. He stuffed it with bread, dried meat, and what little supplies he had. Then he grabbed his old rifle, though he knew it was nothing compared to the soldiers' weapons. He opened the door. The cold bit at his skin instantly, sharp as knives. His dog stepped out first, nose low to the ground, sniffing the air. The man followed, holding the girl's hand. She trembled, her silver skin glowing faintly under the lantern light. The forest loomed before them, dark and endless. Every tree seemed to hide an enemy. Every shadow seemed alive. "Stay close," he whispered. They moved into the night. The snow crunched under their feet, the sound too loud in the silence. The man kept glancing over his shoulder, expecting red lights to appear at any moment. The girl stumbled once, her legs weak, but he caught her quickly. She looked up at him with frightened eyes, then pressed the glowing stone tighter to her chest. Its faint light pulsed, steady and alive. "What is it?" he asked softly as they walked. She shook her head. "It hides me. It guides me. But it also calls them." The man's stomach sank. "Then we have to move faster." They pushed deeper into the forest. The dog trotted ahead, leading them down narrow paths the man knew well. He had hunted here, fished here, walked here 1,000 times, but never before had these woods felt so dangerous. Hours seemed to pass in silence, the only sound their breathing and the crunch of snow. Then faintly the man heard it, the hum again, the low, steady growl of engines cutting through the night. "They're close," he whispered. The girl's eyes widened. "They won't stop." He pulled her forward, heart pounding. The dog barked once, then sprinted ahead. They followed it to a frozen river, the surface shining pale under the moonlight. The man stopped, staring at the wide stretch of ice. Crossing would be dangerous. The ice might not hold, but turning back meant running straight into the hunters. He looked at the girl. She clutched the stone, her lips trembling. "We have to," she whispered. The man nodded. "Hold on to me." They stepped onto the ice. Each step cracked faintly, the sound echoing in the quiet night. His dog ran lightly ahead, its paws barely making a sound. But the man's heavy boots groaned against the frozen surface. Halfway across, the hum grew louder. Bright lights cut through the trees on the far side of the river. Shadows moved. "Soldiers." The girl gasped, clinging tighter to him. "They've found us." The man pulled her along faster, ignoring the cracking beneath his feet. His breath came hard, clouds of white in the freezing air. His dog barked furiously, urging them forward. Behind them, voices shouted through the night. Red lights flickered against the trees, growing brighter, closer. The hunters had seen them. The man reached the far side, dragging the girl up the snowy bank. The ice groaned loudly behind them, a crack racing across its surface. The dog scrambled up beside them just as the ice shattered. The soldiers who had stepped onto the river fell into the freezing water with heavy splashes, their glowing eyes vanishing beneath the broken surface. The man didn't wait to see if they would climb out. He pulled the girl into the trees, running as fast as he could, the dog at his side. Branches whipped against his face, snow stung his eyes, but he didn't stop. Finally, breathless, they stumbled into a small cave hidden behind fallen rocks. He pushed the girl inside, then followed with the dog, pulling branches across the entrance to hide them. The girl collapsed against the wall, shivering, clutching the glowing stone. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. The man crouched beside her, chest heaving. He looked into the night beyond the cave. The forest was alive with lights and voices, the hunters searching, calling, scanning. He clenched his jaw. They were still alive. But for how long? The girl's soft voice broke the silence. They won't stop. They will follow me until the end. The man placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was low but steady. Then let them come. We'll be ready. But inside, he wondered how much longer he could keep his promise. The cave was cold and dark, but it gave them shelter. The fire the man had built was small, just enough to keep them warm and not enough to give away their hiding place. Smoke drifted lazily toward the ceiling and vanished into cracks in the stone. The dog lay close to the entrance, ears twitching, always listening. The little alien girl sat near the flames, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her eyes glowed softly in the dim light, reflecting the fire like strange jewels. In her small hands she held the stone, the same glowing object that seemed to breathe with its own light. She never let it go, not even for a moment. The man sat across from her, his back against the wall, his rifle within reach. He watched her carefully, questions burning inside him. Who was she? Why were the hunters chasing her across the snow, willing to risk death to catch her? Finally, he broke the silence. You need to tell me the truth, he said softly. I can't keep you safe if I don't know what's happening. The girl looked at him, her lips trembling. For a moment, she seemed like she might stay silent. Then her shoulders dropped and she hugged the stone closer. I am not just a child, she whispered. Her voice echoed faintly against the cave walls, soft but steady. I am a daughter of one they fear, and one they hate. The man frowned. Who? She hesitated, then leaned closer to the fire. Her markings glowed faintly along her skin, symbols that shifted and pulsed with light. My father was a leader, not just of one world, of many. He spoke for peace, for freedom. But those who hunt me, they wanted war. They wanted power. They killed him. The man's chest tightened. He had not expected this. She was not just any lost child. She was a fugitive carrying blood that mattered to entire worlds. They killed him, she repeated, tears forming in her glowing eyes. And they came for me. Because I am his blood. Because I carry his memory. If I die, his name ends. If I live, they fear what I might become. The dog whined softly, sensing her pain. It crawled closer, resting its head against her knee. For the first time since he had found her, she smiled, weak, trembling, but real. The man leaned forward, lowering his voice. And the stone? What is it? She lifted it carefully, letting the glow touch the walls of the cave. The light seemed alive, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. This is not just a stone, she said. It is a key. My father gave it to me before he died. It carries his voice, his memory, his power. If they take it, they erase him forever. If I keep it safe, one day it can call his allies. One day it can bring hope again. The man stared at the object, its glow reflected in his tired eyes. He could feel the truth in her words. This stone was more than a treasure. It was a symbol, a weapon, maybe even a seed of rebellion. And now it was in his cabin, in his cave, in his arms. That's why they hunt you, he said slowly. She nodded. They will not stop. Not until I am gone. Not until this is gone. For a long time, the cave was silent except for the fire's crackle. The man looked at her, so small, so fragile, and wondered how she carried such a burden. She should have been playing, laughing, safe. Instead, she was running for her life, carrying a secret that could change galaxies. He sighed, rubbing a hand across his face. You should have left me out of this, he muttered. Her eyes widened, fear flashing in them. I didn't mean to. I only wanted to survive. The man shook his head quickly, seeing her tears rise again. No, I mean, he stopped, searching for the right words. I mean, I can't walk away now. You brought this to me, and that means I have to carry it with you, whether I want to or not. The girl's lips parted. For the first time, her fear seemed to soften into something else, trust. But then the ground shook. The fire sputtered, ashes leaping into the air. The dog barked, rushing to the entrance, its fur standing on end. A low rumble echoed through the cave, followed by sharp beeps, mechanical and cold. The man grabbed his rifle, his heart racing. He pulled the girl behind him, keeping her against the wall. They found us, she whispered. The rumble grew louder. Outside, red lights swept across the snow, cutting through the trees. Shadows moved against the cave mouth. Voices barked commands in the same metallic tone he had heard before. The girl clutched the stone, her hands glowing brighter with its light. If they catch me, everything is lost. The man raised his rifle, his dog growling at his side. His body trembled, but his voice was steady. Then we don't let them. The cave shook again as something struck the rocks outside. The soldiers were here, and this time they weren't knocking. The cave trembled as stones cracked loose from the ceiling. Dust filled the air. The little alien girl pressed herself against the wall, clutching the glowing stone to her chest. Her wide eyes glowed in the dim firelight. The man stood in front of her, rifle raised, his dog growling low and steady at his side. Another crash thundered outside. This time the entrance split open, rocks tumbling as if torn away by invisible hands. The cold wind swept inside, carrying with it the harsh red glow of searching lights. Shadows of tall armored figures stretched across the cave walls. "They're here," the man whispered. His voice was tight but steady. The dog barked sharply, its body low to the ground, ready to spring. Then the soldiers stepped into view. Their armor gleamed like black steel, their red eyes glowing behind their helmets. Their weapons hummed, casting sharp light across the cave. The leader raised his hand. "There is no escape," the metallic voice boomed. "Give us the child. Give us the stone. Live." The man tightened his grip on the rifle. He could feel his own fear clawing at him, but he stood firm. "You'll have to kill me first." The soldiers raised their weapons. The first blast lit the cave like lightning. The man dove to the side, pulling the girl with him. The energy bolt struck the wall, exploding in sparks and smoke. His dog lunged forward, teeth bared, knocking one soldier off balance before darting back into the shadows. The man fired his rifle. The bullet struck armor, sparking but not breaking through. Still, the force pushed one soldier back a step. Another bolt seared across the floor, burning deep into the stone. The girl cried out, clutching the glowing stone. The markings on her skin flared brighter, pulsing with light. The soldiers froze for half a second, their red eyes fixed on her. "She activates it," one barked. "Stop her." Two rushed forward. The man swung the rifle like a club, smashing it into the first soldier's helmet. The impact sent the figure stumbling. His dog leapt onto the second soldier's arm, biting down hard, refusing to let go even as sparks flew from the weapon. The girl squeezed the stone tighter. Her small hands trembled, but the glow expanded, spilling across the cave walls. A wave of energy burst outward, slamming into the soldiers. They staggered, their weapons sparking wildly, their helmets flickering with red light. The man felt the power too, humming through the air, raising the hair on his arms. It was like standing inside a storm, every breath filled with static and heat. "Keep going," he shouted. The girl shook her head, her face pale. "It takes too much." "I can't hold it long." Another soldier charged, swinging its weapon like a blade. The man barely ducked in time. The blade struck the stone wall, sparks scattering. He shoved his shoulder into the soldier's chest, forcing it back. His dog tore at another, growling with fury. The cave filled with chaos, shouts, blasts, snarls, and the girl's cries. The air burned with heat and smoke. At last, the leader stepped forward. Unlike the others, his armor was heavier, darker, his eyes brighter. He raised a weapon larger than the rest, humming with deadly energy. "You cannot win," the metallic voice growled. "You are only a man. She is only a child. Surrender, and I will make your end swift." The man stood tall, blood on his face, rifle trembling in his hands. His dog limped back to his side, still growling, ready to fight until the end. "No," the man said, his voice cold and sharp. "You've taken enough." The leader raised his weapon. But before he could fire, the girl screamed. The stone exploded with light. The cave filled with blinding brilliance, brighter than the sun. The ground shook violently. The soldiers staggered, their armor sparking, their weapons shorting out. One by one they fell to their knees, the red glow of their eyes flickering. The man shielded his eyes, his ears ringing from the force. When the light finally dimmed, he looked around. Several soldiers lay still on the ground, their armor cracked and smoking. The leader stumbled, his weapon half melted in his hand. The girl collapsed, her small body trembling, the stone now dim in her hand. "I can't again," she whispered, her voice weak. The man caught her before she hit the ground. He pulled her close, his heart pounding. She had saved them, but she had drained herself. The leader growled, forcing himself to stand. "You think you have won? You are wrong. We will never stop. She cannot run forever, and neither can you. He staggered back into the snow, disappearing into the storm with the few soldiers still standing. Silence fell in the cave, broken only by the girl's faint breathing and the crackle of the dying fire. The man held her close, his dog leaning against his leg. He looked into the storm outside, his jaw tight. They had survived the night. But he knew the fight was far from over. They'll be back, he whispered. And as the girl shivered in his arms, he made a silent vow. If they wanted her, they would have to go through him first. The cave was quiet now. The smoke had thinned and the fire had gone out. The man sat against the wall, the little alien girl resting weakly in his arms. Her silver skin was pale, her glowing eyes dim with exhaustion. The stone in her hand no longer shone brightly. It pulsed faintly like a heartbeat fading away. His dog lay nearby, chest rising and falling fast, wounded but alive. The man reached down to touch its head, whispering, "Good boy." The animal licked his hand weakly, then closed its eyes to rest. The man stared at the girl. She was so small, so fragile, yet she carried the weight of galaxies. The hunters would never stop chasing her. He had seen their leader's eyes, heard the promise in his voice. They would come again, and each time they would come stronger. He felt torn in two. One part of him wanted to end this, to give her up, to walk away before her fight swallowed him whole. He was just a man. He had no army, no power. How could he stand against enemies who crossed the stars? But the other part of him, the part that had carried her from the snow, the part that had chosen to fight in the cave, knew the truth. If he abandoned her, she would die, and something inside him would die too. The girl stirred, opening her faintly glowing eyes. Her voice was soft, weak but clear. "You should leave me," the man blinked. "What?" "You will die if you stay with me," she whispered. "They will kill you. They will kill your dog. I don't want that. You helped me more than anyone, but now, you must let me go." Her words cut deep, sharper than any blade. The man shook his head. "No, I won't do that." Tears shimmered in her glowing eyes. "Why, you don't know me. I am not your people. I am not your family." The man's voice was steady, though his chest ached. "Because you needed me. Because you're alone, and no one should face the dark alone." For a moment, silence filled the cave. Then the stone in her hands pulsed brighter, as if answering his words. The girl looked down at it, her eyes widening. "It hears you," she whispered. The man frowned. "What do you mean?" "The stone. It is more than memory. It is a beacon. It listens for courage, for kindness, for truth. When it finds them, it awakens." The glow spread through her hands, brighter, stronger. The air hummed with energy. The man felt his hair rise, his skin prickle with static. The cave walls shook, but not from soldiers this time, from something above. The girl gasped, her voice trembling. "It calls them my father's allies. They are coming." The man's eyes widened. He rushed to the entrance and looked into the storm. The sky was no longer dark. Lights moved across it, not red like the hunters, but gold and silver, glowing like stars brought to earth. Ships, massive, shining ships, descended through the clouds, their engines roaring like thunder. The hunters returned too. Red lights swept across the forest, soldiers marching through the snow. Their leader stood tall, raising his weapon toward the cave. His metallic voice carried above the wind. "Give her to us, human, or you will burn with her." The man stepped forward, rifle in hand. His dog limped to his side, baring its teeth. Behind him, the girl's stone glowed brighter, filling the cave with light. He raised his voice louder than the storm. "No, if you want her, you'll have to go through me." The hunters aimed their weapons. The air filled with the hum of power ready to fire. But before they could shoot, the golden ships above fired beams of light down into the forest. The ground shook. The hunters staggered, their weapons thrown from their hands. The leader roared, but his voice was drowned by the thunder of engines. The allies had arrived. One great ship descended lower, its hull gleaming with strange symbols. A ramp opened, pouring golden light onto the snow. Figures stepped out, tall and bright, their armor shining like the sun. The girl stumbled forward, her strength returning in the glow. She looked at the man, tears in her eyes. "They came because of you." He stared at her, breathless. "Me," she nodded. "You chose to fight when you could have walked away. That choice called them. That choice saved me. The allies reached her, surrounding her with protection. One of them looked at the man, their voice deep and powerful. "You have done more than you know, human. You have saved not only her, but hope itself." The girl looked back one last time, clutching the stone. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will never forget you." The man stood in the snow, his dog leaning against his leg as the golden ship rose into the storm. The hunters fled into the shadows, broken and defeated. The night grew quiet again. The man lowered his rifle and looked at the sky where the golden lights vanished into the clouds. His life would never be the same. He looked down at his dog, scratching behind its ear. "Well, boy," he said softly, "I guess we made some friends tonight." The dog wagged its tail weakly, and for the first time in days, the man smiled. The storm passed. The world was still. But deep inside, he knew this was not an ending. It was the beginning of something far greater. And somewhere among the stars, a little alien girl carried his name in her heart.